Although I've not finished constructing all of the components for this model, there are still some major components that I haven't completed, like the aircraft crane that goes on the stern, and then also the gun directors for the secondary armament. Those components, while they are major components, are also very delicate, so I don't want to construct them and install them now because I'm concerned that if I were to have them installed while doing the weathering, they would get damaged. In my weathering process, the first step is always to seal in the color coat with a glass coat. That is just there to protect the underlying paint. The glass coat that I'm using for all of these parts is Mr. Color GX112 Super Clear UV Cut. This is a very nice glass coat, although it does come out of the bottle very thick. I am thinning it roughly 3 to 4 parts Mr. Rapid Thinner to 1 part of this varnish. When it comes to spraying clear coats, it's quite important to get it properly thinned. If it is not properly thinned, then it will kind of ball up and create a rough texture that will look like white frosting on the model. That is something that you want to avoid. It is quite easy to correct if you do get it, but the way to not get it is to ensure that your glass coat is properly thinned. It's always surprising how thin you really need to make it. If you do start to see frosting while you're spraying your glass coat, don't worry, it is easy to fix. The first thing to realize is that your paint just isn't thin enough, so you can thin it a lot more. But I wouldn't continue painting until you've corrected the frosting that you do have, and to do that, just dump out your glass coat back into its jar, and then just load up your airbrush with Mr. Leveling Thinner, and spray Mr. Leveling Thinner raw over the area where you see frosting. The leveling thinner will then dissolve the frosting and let it flow into the paintwork, creating a nice smooth finish. Of course, you just need to be careful to not overdo it. If you do overdo it, you will lift the paint and then it'll go all sorts of wrong. All you're looking to do is just wet it so that the paint can move it a little bit and that frosting will disappear. Once you've done that, you can thin your glass coat a little bit more, load that back up into the airbrush and continue spraying. The same trick also works with matte coats, although in that case to correct it, don't spray leveling thinner because leveling thinner will allow all the particles in the matte coat that makes it look matte to flatten out and turn it into effectively a glass coat. In that case, you just spray it with rapid thinners and it will have the same effect. Anyway, back to the task at hand. Since I am spraying a lot of this clear coat and it is very thin, you have this cloud of thinners vapor filling the room. So it is very important to be using a paint mask so that you don't breathe in these fumes. Apart from the hull and the superstructure, there are a number of other components that I'm going to apply the gloss coat to now. These components had previously been constructed and painted, so it just makes sense for me to apply the gloss coat to them and then weather them at the same time as the hull and superstructure. These are the catapults, the 3 16-inch turrets, the 10 5-inch turrets, the foremast. This is one of the components that I probably shouldn't have constructed at this point. It is very delicate. I have decided not to install it on the model at this point because while I'm handling and rotating the model, I'm concerned I'm going to knock it off the ship, damage the platform and the radar that sits on top of it. Lastly, there are the 2 main gun directors. These components are fairly delicate but quite compact, and I'm not too concerned about them. They can quite safely sit to the side. They're not nearly as delicate as the gun directors for the secondary armament. After spraying all the components in their first round of clear coat, I move back onto the hull and superstructure and give it a second round of glass coat. At the end of this second application of glass coat, I'm going to do something a little bit controversial. In some areas, the color coat is a little bit rough, and I want to smooth that out. To do this, I use the same process that I used to correct frosting. It is risky because I am going to be putting on a lot of leveling thinner, which does have the risk of causing the color coat to run. But if we wet it just enough so that it doesn't start running, it can have this effect of dissolving any rough paint and leveling it out and correcting those defects without me having to put in much effort at all. Because leveling thinner has a paint retarder in it, it allows the color coat to move over time. It's just a matter of not overdoing it and then causing the paint to run. I do this quite often, which is why my color coats are not always perfect first time round. I know I can correct it with this rather lazy method, and it works. So I spray the whole model pretty much with this leveling thinner and let it do its magic to even out the paintwork where it needs to be evened out. After all of that glass coat and leveling thinner, leave the model to dry for 24 hours. The next step is to apply decals, and I want to make sure that this varnish has hardened sufficiently before I start interacting with it. The decals that I'll be applying in this video came with the Pontos wooden deck. The Pontos decals are dry transfer decals, or more correctly, heat transfer decals, because that's the actual mechanism by which they are removed from their backing and adhere to the model. The advantage of these decals is that they don't have to be applied to a gloss surface to prevent silvering. There is no film that gets transferred with them, so you can apply them to matte surfaces if you like. To apply the dry transfer decals, the first step is to obviously cut them off of their backing. This is done using a fairly sharp hobby knife. After removing the decal from its backing, I apply tape to it, and with tape attached, I carefully position it on the hull. I prefer to tape into place dry transfer decals because if they move while you're rubbing them, then it's going to get the text all out of alignment and it'll just look odd. As much as you can simply transfer these decals using the heat from friction while rubbing the back of them, I don't advise that because it does require quite a lot of effort and I found the results to be quite mixed. I think it is best to get some assistance from hot air, so in this case I'll be using an ammo hot dog air gun to help warm up the surface. With the hot air from the air gun, the transfer happens much more easily. After the ship's name, I prepare the ship's number. I need 4 60s, and I'm using the positioning from various pictures of Alabama that I found online. I'm not going to be following the positioning as indicated in the painting guide. Although being a larger and more square decal actually makes it a little bit easier. After cutting all the decals into their own pieces, I tape them to the side of the hull in the correct location, then position them in front of the air gun, and while hot air is blowing over them, rub the back of them to transfer them onto the side of the hull. All of these went very easily. There is one other issue with these dry transfer decals, and you're going to see it with the load markings, is that there is some adhesive on the back of it that does tend to transfer, especially when the backing gets quite warm, which is going to happen with the hot air gun. That adhesive that transfers, it is possible to correct with another layer of gloss coat, so if you start seeing that, don't worry, it will be removed in time. Of all the dry transfer decals, my nemesis are these load markings. They are very small and delicate, and they always are difficult to transfer, even with the hot air gun. Fortunately, Pontos has provided a lot of additional strips. I think they know that these ones are difficult. I looked online to try and find images where these load markings should be placed, but it was quite difficult to see them on Alabama in Measure 12 camouflage. So in the end, I just went on Google Maps. On Alabama today, there are only 2 load markings, one at the bow and one at the stern. This means I have a lot of extra decals to make this work, which I'm quite happy with. I'm sure at least one is going to get destroyed in this process. Using Google Maps as a reference, I positioned the load markings on the side of the hull in the same position and taped them in place as before with all of the other decals. Once the decals are correctly positioned, I aim the air gun at them and start blowing hot air over them while rubbing them vigorously with the back of my tweezers. For this first set of markings, I once again underestimated the difficulty here. I thought it would be a lot easier because of how well the ship name and ship number went, but true to form, it did not want to come off its backing. So after the first attempt, when I lifted it, I could see certain numbers didn't transfer. So I tried to reposition the decal and then reheat it with the air gun and rub it off. This got a few more numbers off, but it wasn't going well and some of the numbers started to get damaged, so I gave up on this first strip, removed the decal, scraped off the numbers, cleaned up the area, and then taped on a replacement strip. This time I heated up the area a lot more and spent a lot more time very carefully rubbing over the numbers, and then when it came to removing the backing, I very carefully removed it, ensuring that if there was any hint of a number sticking, I stuck it down immediately and then worked on that number to get it to transfer correctly. Using this method, I was able to get all of the other load markings successfully transferred onto the hull without damaging the numbers. These dry transfer decals are very nice. I just wish they were easier to work with. The damage to the paintwork surrounding these markings is particularly bad. It's just a consequence of the area being heated up and then having that pressure pushing the backing into the paint that's caused this damage. But fortunately, although it looks bad, all that it is just a change in surface texture. It's been made matte. So all I need to do to get that to blend back in with the rest of the hull is make it gloss. And well, as it turns out, that's the next thing that needs to be done, because there's no ways that I'm leaving these decals unprotected. They need to be sealed in under a layer of gloss varnish. This is a simple matter of just repeating the earlier step of spraying Mr. Color GX112 over the area. Since the whole model has already been sprayed in this gloss coat, all I need to do is cover the decals and ensure that the gloss coat properly blends in with the rest of the hull. This is easily done because, as I said, it is a very thin coat. All that I do is apply the majority of the gloss coat at the bow and stern over the decals, and then lightly run that over the full length of the ship to ensure that there aren't any noticeable joins between old and new varnish. I am quite happy with how the model is looking now with its decals applied and everything covered in its gloss varnish. Before I start weathering, I just need this varnish to cure, so I'm going to leave it for a few days before I start the weathering process, which is what I'll do in the next video. If you don't want to wait for the scheduled release of videos and want to watch them when they are uploaded, consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below. If you would like to support the channel, like and subscribe, and as always, questions are welcome in the comments. Thank you for watching. Cheers.